This segment of Delmarva Life is brought to you by For All Seasons Behavioral Health and Rape Crisis Center.
Now, you know, we don't throw too many statistics your way because it can be easy to get lost in the numbers, but we are going to share one statistic with you today, one that we think might take you by surprise.
Yeah, get this. Studies show 81% of women nationwide have reported experiencing some form of sexual harassment or assault. 81%. We are happy to have with us back today Beth Anne Langrell. She is the CEO for All Seasons Behavioral Health and Rape Crisis Center in Easton. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
So, Beth Anne, that's a lot of women, but men are victims too, and sexual assault can happen in all communities.
Absolutely, and I think it's really important before we get started into this conversation to recognize that this is a hard topic to talk about, and that for some folks that are listening, this might be a triggering conversation, but I would encourage people to stick through and really be able to hear information that we're going to be sharing today, because this is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and it's an important topic for us to talk through. And you know, as you share the statistics out, it's 81% of women and 43% of men have experienced some form of sexual harassment or sexual assault. And it's important when we think about those numbers that we recognize that that's a spectrum. So, you know, there's a large variation of how harassment and sexual assault show up in our community, but 81%, if you think about that, that's 3 out of 4. When it comes to, you know, if there was a 4th person sitting here in the room, that means that 3 out of 4 statistically have experienced some form of harassment or assault.
And you mentioned that April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Why is community awareness so vital?
Well, even just a conversation that we're having, you know, just being able to give words and space for a conversation. I have a good friend who runs Humane Society, and she and I always joke about, you know, this is the topic. It's not as friendly as puppies and kittens. This is a hard conversation to have, but when you think about the statistics that we just talked about, the reality is it's affecting all of us. Whether it's affecting us personally, we all know someone, even if we don't know that we know. And so just simply being able to help people understand how to move through a conversation and giving some tips and tools and strategies for the way that the conversations can unfold is really important.
And it extends into cyberspace too, because there's an emphasis right now on online abuse and harassment.
Absolutely, and that's one of the National Sexual Assault campaign topic this month, is that cyber information and making sure that we have online safety, especially for our children. You know, we've talked about the pandemic so much on the show, and really thinking about the amount of screen time our children are seeing, and adults as well. And so really being able to focus in on the safety component. We talk a lot about not totally eliminating screen time, but really being able to help children understand safe boundaries and checking in on your kids to make sure that what they are seeing is appropriate.
So what else can we do to keep our family members and loved ones safe from this harassment?
So having conversations about it. You know, they're hard conversations to have, but helping to open up conversation that doesn't just happen one time, but sort of making the conversation in the fold of checking in of, hey, you know, how was school today? And was there any situations that were hard, or what was the best part of your day? And then, you know, being cognizant of how our children are talking to one another, because if we can get kids to be talking kindly to each other, and being able to create a space where if we are a part of a conversation, we're addressing in a healthy way of, you know, I'm sorry to hear that that's your experience, but maybe, you know, saying something like, that's not been mine, or I'm uncomfortable with what was just said, can we talk about it? So many times we don't know what to say, so we say nothing. And it's important to remember, especially when we're talking about survivors and victims, that saying nothing is basically saying it's okay. And so you might have to think through what those words will be for you. And I think it's really important in this conversation, it is not going to be easy. Like, people are not going to see this spot and then say, oh, I've got it. You know, it's a little bit of practicing and having conversations. But our language that we use can be really important, and the understanding that we have to believe people's stories. Yep. And you don't have to have the answers. But, you know, Lisa, if you and I are having a conversation and I disclose something, me hearing back from you thank you so much for sharing. I'm here. Is a really important thing for a survivor. And the other piece that's important is remembering that any type of harassment or assault is not something that we've asked for.
Right.
It's something that has happened to us. And so understanding the importance of being able to provide that person their journey. If it's our children, you know, there's certain things that happen with our child advocacy centers, and we have a different process we go through. But as an adult, it's the first opportunity for us to take some control back when something has happened to us, and that's a really important piece too.
So it's time to open the conversation. CEO of For All Seasons Behavioral Health and Rape Crisis Center in Easton, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For joining us
Thank
today.
you.